My name is Frank Morrocco. I did 21 years in federal prison, and I'm on here chatting with Staxx right now and enjoying it.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Frank Morrocco.
See, and then he had to testify in the federal case.
You got more time than the shooter?
I got more time than everybody. And let me tell you something, Bill. Nobody came in the courtroom and said I bought drugs from Frank Morrocco. But they would say, now, I was lending Grozade money after, he knew I had money, all legal money. I had a car lot, 5-bedroom house, the Benz. I traded my Harley every year. And I would lend Grozade money. And he'd shoot me back like a quarter ounce because he paid me back in a week or two. And we're not talking cartel money, Bill. We're talking 15 grand, 20 grand. And I'd get the money back in a week. This mother must have been writing this down. He didn't miss a beat when he got on that witness stand, this Grozade.
How can they do that? How can they, person that set up the crimes, right? How do they testify against other people that are like beneath them in the crime? How is that?
I don't know. We see it every day. I mean, I was with the crew. And you know what? I should have never got involved. I had legal money. I was smarter than the average bear. I was doing great in the car business, making very good money, living a good life, family, the whole 9 yards. I get involved with this and get involved with, and it destroyed me, dude. It destroyed me. And I wouldn't cooperate. They did offer me 5 years to plead guilty, and I said, you know what? I'm not pleading guilty. Nobody's going to come and say they bought for me. Back then, the prosecutors, federal prosecutors, have a little more discretion now. Or they had more discretion then. The judge didn't. Now it's back to where the judge has some discretion. I would have never got 22 years now.
So that's what you end up getting, 22 years.
262 months to 327 was my guidelines. And they put 5 to 14 kilos on me. And let me tell you what.
How old were you at the time?
30s. I was dealing cars out of my house. My best friend who ended up testifying against me, the guy I talked to today, we were making good money. We were good friends, and he got caught up with me with this jerk, and he got caught up more than I did, and, he was running the kilos, and he got dragged into that murder, and, he testified his way out of it,
Is this your first time going to prison?
Yeah, I never did any other prison time. I've done county jail time. I've done county jail time recently, I got involved.
No, I mean like in your life at that time.
Yeah, I never did time. I was a good kid.
Wow. So what's it like? You're in your 30s. You got to go do this time. Are you like, what are you thinking?
I had no choice. What was I going to do?
Are you thinking your life's over?
Well, I'm going to be 70 in July. I still ride my Harley. I'm during the winter up here in Buffalo. I don't do much. I got a nice apartment, and I don't do much. I date here and there. I haven't had a serious girlfriend.
I'm talking about when you're going in. I'm talking about when you go into prison. Are you thinking your life is over? Like, this is it. My life's done. I got to do this time.
Yeah, I had to make I had to make the best of it. And let me tell you what. 6 years before I came home, I'm around all these mob guys. I'm around serious people, but I'm also around Wall Street guys with Wall Street cases. So, of course, we got no internet, but you got Businessman's Daily Journal newspaper. You got the Wall Street Journal. I started paying. They were making graphs in their cells, with the stocks. I said, well, I could do this. So I got a hold of a broker, and I took 35 grand. I bought 3 mutual stocks. One was a South American mutual stock, and it was recommended to me by a friend of my mother's. I put 25,000 in that mutual fund. I put 5,000 apiece in two smaller mutual funds. Bill, the one I put 25,000 in less than a year, it was 62,000. I cashed it out. I cashed the three of them out. Now I started with blue chips. I taught myself this, and now, I got like $5,000-6,000 in my commissary account. So, I'm living large. And Rob Rosso will tell you that in the podcast he did on me. Like, I was a go-to guy, Yeah. Gold chains for sale, this for sale. They came to me, I mean, like, I had it going on. And to make a long story short, I turned that 35 grand into almost 200 grand before I came home. I bought two brand new Harleys from my prison cell, 08 and 12. I was away for 21 years. And I did a lot of whole time. And, I did 6 months at a time sometimes in the box. And, like, he cried about it. From what what are you going to do, man? You're there. You never caught any of that?
No. I'm going to go check it out now.
Yeah. Check it out. I'm telling you. But still,
Well, he cried about it? He was crying about it?
Yeah, he made locked up for this amount of time. Anytime I went to the box, I don't want to go to the box, but I did it. What are you going to do? You're there. I mean, you're living that life behind that fence and that wall. It's part of the game. I mean,
100%.
I saw so much in penitentiaries you can't imagine. Finally, I got lucky. I did better time in the higher level penitentiaries than I did the FCIs. I really did. Then I got diagnosed with leukemia in 2008.
Tell me about some of the first things you've seen in prison.
Saw murders.
Were you violent when you first went?
I went to a nice place to begin with, McKean. That was green. I had to learn a lot of shit. I was, when I first came in, of course, being Italian, and I was close to Buffalo. I was in Bradford, Pennsylvania, about an hour away. So, like, I never got asked for paperwork. My case was kind of known, I never once got asked for paperwork, but I had it. I went along with it, Bill. I had to, I did it. I did my time, and I came out sane. I came out with money. Fucking scored a fucking girl in her 20s for years. I was with her. I mean, that's some fucking, a 6 foot tall blonde,
Who are some of the first people that you came across? People in the mob or people in these motorcycle?
Yeah, well, a couple. Yeah, not so much the motorcycle guys. Where I was, there was, I think, one outlaw, and there was one Hell's Angel. Hell's Angel out of Rochester. I'm not sure of the outlaw, but that was more around the Italian guys in the beginning. And some of the blacks from Buffalo, because I don't know if you ever heard of Donald Sly Green.
Yes.
He was a younger black gangster out of the East Side. He was a serious kid. And I had a friend, a black girl, a couple doors away from one of his best friends. And he always says to his friend, Dee Dee's dead now. He did the same time I did. Their trial was around the time my trial was. He kept saying to Dee, who's the Italian guy? Who's the Italian guy? He's a friend of Joanne's. So Sly finally approaches me. He says, Frank, I'll give you kilos up front. He said, I'd like to have, some of the Italians and some of the blacks you have. But thank God I turned that down. I just, first of all, I wasn't a kilo weight dealer. Me taking a kilo would have been a catastrophe.
So once you get cancer, you get transferred. That's where you meet Rob Rosso, right?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I think you're right. Yeah, I met Rob there. He was very good.
Carmine Persico.
He was real tight with Carmine Persico. I was with Carmine in Lompoc. I was with Joey Testa in Terre Haute, Vic Amuso in Terre Haute, Ralph DeLeo out of the Boston area, Greg Scarpa Jr. I was around them, and I was mostly, with the Italians. And finally, as time went on, somehow I got real tight with the Latin King out of New York. Bosco, his name was. And me and Bosco got real tight. I got real tight with the Latin Kings. I was invited to all their outings. I wasn't a Latin gang. I'd never been involved as a member of anything. And but I've had some experiences. There's been stories written about the Buffalo News about me. I became friends with the
affiliate and associate. They call you an affiliate or an associate, right?
Yeah. If you read any articles about me, it says mob, like my co-defendant who I went on trial with was a hitman. And it would said mob hitman and associate Frank F.J.M. Morrocco. Anything I'm around, I'm only associated with. If I'm around a motorcycle club, I'm an associate. Same with the mob. Just in Buffalo, we don't even have a mob anymore. I mean, they're gone. I don't think they opened. I don't think there's been anybody made in the Buffalo mob since the fucking late 70s. Maybe they're gone.
Magadino era, right?
Well, Magadino. Then I went to Pieri. And then I went to the Todaros. Magadino is the longest reigning mob boss in history. Did you know that?
Yeah, I seen that on the podcast you did. I heard you saying that.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. My mother was very good friends with the girl by the name of Pat Fondero. Actually, Pat, her brother is Danny Hutton from Three Dog Night. Her husband, Pat's husband, his name was Jack. His mother came to the old country with Stefano Magadino's mother. So they were close. Well, he had a restaurant downtown Buffalo, a supper club, jazz club called the Normandy. Well, he comes to work one day and the safe's gone. Somebody burglarized the restaurant and the safe's gone. He made a call. He met up with Stefano Magadino. He came to work the next day. The safe was back.
Tell me about some of these other people that you were locked up with. Like, how was Carmine Persico in prison?
I was a Lompoc with him at first, and we got along great. Then we kind of didn't. And then I ended up with him again in Butner. And I'll tell you a funny story, man. And Rob Rossall backed this up. You know who Jerry Capici is?
Yes.
Okay. So Carmine, we're a Butner, and he's got a table that he sits at in the chow hall. That's his table. Well, sometimes he always sent one guy to hold that table down until he got there. For that unit guy. But one day, a couple black kids are sitting at the table, and there's Carmine with his tray huffing and puffing, and there was words, and the black kid throws his drink in Carmine's face. Right? So they go to lock him up, both of them up, and Carmine says, "Don't lock him up. Don't lock me up. You're going to make it worse." And they listen to Carmine. Well, now the kid, I'm in the unit with the kid, and he knows I'm with the Italians. And he says, he's got a couple years to do. He says, "Frank, am I going to have a problem with the mob when I get out?" I says, "Absolutely not." So anyway, I probably shouldn't be telling this on the air. But me and Carmine had a little falling out. And Jerry Capici, his whole fucking thing is the New York mob, right? I call fucking Jerry Capici up on the phone. I tell him the story. Dude, he did the biggest story on that you could imagine. And Carmine never knew it was me. He blamed some other Italian guy.
You didn't tell him it was you calling him, right?
Well, no.
He didn't put you in the...
Oh, I told Jerry Capici who I was.
Now, let me ask you, do you think that Carmine knew that Scarpa Sr. was cooperating?
Well, I was at Terre Haute when that went down.